SEO is this one. Next one's backup recovery, disaster recovery, business continuity, and resilience, all in one big thing. We're going to do some stuff on point-to-point wireless links, and we're also going to do some notes from the NOC. So the Network Operations Center does the support for our network and all our commercial customers. And so what we're doing with those is we're making sure that that you actually know some things about how to support work at Stork, and what are the kinds of things we can do to make it easier for you, and what you can do to make it easier for us to support you. So as an example, if you're a commercial customer, having your current network diagram is really important, because if we're trying to restore you to that, we don't want the one from 2 years ago. So little things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover a few things, and there's an opportunity to do Q&A at the end, but there's lots of work that goes through this when we do it. So we ourselves have been in business for more than 25 years. We have offices in Ottawa, Perth, and Chesterville. We provide high-speed internet in rural Ontario. We own, people call it facilities-based network, and we own our own facilities. We have 262 towers. We own our own fiber in the Clayton area and also at the 417 Business Park. We also do what's called TPIA, third-party internet access, where we resell DSL cable and fiber. We're Bell's largest fiber reseller in the Ottawa area. Lots of businesses have bought fibers from us to get things done. Our customer service is all local. So they actually live in the communities, and you know who they are, perhaps. Or maybe there's just secret people hanging out. Anyway, more than 10,000 customers. We have both residential and commercial solutions, and we also have more than 50 employees. So what our coverage looks like is it goes from Charlotte Lake, which is just north of Kingston, all the way over to the Quebec border. And you can see that there's a couple of towers over here in the Quebec border, and those towers, one of them we just boosted to 100 down and 20 up. So that's we're capable of doing that on a bunch more towers, and we're starting that program. So if you know somebody who lives near one of our towers and uses wireless to get connected, we're happy to take a look at what the demand on that tower is and do the upgrade. So those are the kinds of things that we are working on. We do a lot of things for the community. We actually support a bunch of events. We also support the municipality. So in Ottawa, they're doing a light rail construction, and we're working on that for them, because we can just feed the construction site wirelessly, and then when they move a bit down the road, we can just repoint the antennas and reconnect them. We also do some of the Ottawa City facilities, such as at the Aberdeen Pavilion in Lansdowne Park, and also 111 Sussex, which is one of the meeting centers that used to be the town hall. Lots of stuff in rural areas, 150 plus smart farms, lots of marinas and campgrounds. It's been a busy year. So what this is all about is how can you find the needle in the haystack? We like this picture because it just made it so that people actually understood that's what we're looking for, the needle in the haystack. We want to be the big needle so people actually can find us. And that's why we have Allan here, because Allan actually knows a lot about this. In fact, he's been doing it since 1998 and knows a lot of things. So Allan, do you want to introduce yourself, or what do you want to do at this point?
Sure, whatever way you like. So I've been doing this since 1998. I'm actually kind of one of the pioneers in the industry. A lot of the books that I've written or clients that I've dealt with sort of led to a lot of my SEO ideas becoming almost like the basis for how SEO is done throughout the industry. My background is actually in physics. I was a physics major in university. But then I took computer programming afterwards, and I learned how to program in about 10 different languages. And then I got into SEO by accident. I sort of found that I had a natural talent to understand what makes the search engines tick, And I'd actually got into reading a lot of the Google, original Google, when they were doing their PhD report on Google. I read all their documentation and actually learned it from the source code. So, so I sort of understood very early on how their algorithms worked and how to get best results from those algorithms. And I started implementing that on my own sites and for my clients' sites as well. So that, which kind of leads to the question of what is SEO? A lot of people think SEO is this kind of magical thing or almost maybe deceptive thing, which is not really a good way to understand SEO. SEO is really about search engine optimization, which means the search engines want to serve the best results to their clients. So Google, it wants to show the best results, the most relevant results to its customers. If you game it, if you try to like manipulate it, then all you're doing is worsening the results. So generally, when people game the search engines, what ends up happening is over time, the search engines become kind of savvy to that, and they will filter it out. They'll do whatever they can to get rid of the sort of gamed results. So the strategies that I have always employed is things that don't really involve gaming the search engines, but instead working with the search engines to get the best results.
So some of those things that we talked about, Allan, were things like making sure you have great content that really describes what you do for a business, and to make sure you post regularly. Those were two of the big things, because content is king at the end of the day. And then there's some things you're going to talk about for us on how you can make it easier for the search engine to ingest you and therefore rank you better. Yep.
So I'll get into all of that. So you're probably wondering, how important is SEO? Well, about 60% of most website traffic comes from Google. So if basically 60% comes from Google, and probably about another 10 to 20% comes from the other search engines. So most of one's website traffic actually comes from Google and from the search engines. Now, the interesting thing is, when Google came into play, when it became a major player within the search engine space, well, all the search engines sort of adopted the same rules that Google did. So basically, if you understand how to rank on Google, well, you understand how to rank on Bing, on whatever search engine.
Does Alta Vista still exist?
Alta Vista, I don't know if it still does. I think Ask Jeeves still does, though, which is kind of interesting. But there's a bunch of them that still exist. Even Yahoo still exists and still has a search engine. And so understanding how the search engines work is kind of the key. And if you don't leverage that, you're sort of missing out on a big chunk of business that you could be potentially getting from the search engines. And I'll give you a quick example of a client of mine that was really interesting. So a lot of the time I work with other companies where they basically take my services and then offer them my services to their clients. One of the companies that I worked for maybe 10, 15 years ago was a web design company. So they specialized in custom web design, and that was their bread and butter. And what happened was I went through their site, I did an audit of their website, and I noticed they never mentioned the word website or web design or anything that actually said what they did. They would talk about, oh, we can make your business shine and stuff like that. They would talk in these kind of superlatives, but they would never say exactly what they did. And they thought if they said what they actually did, they wouldn't sound sophisticated enough for their clients. So I was like, well, people, when they come into a website, they have about 3 seconds attention span. And there's 1 trillion web pages out there. Okay, so you got to make yourself shine out of a trillion websites, a trillion pages. So if you don't say what you do, and when somebody comes in, they're not going to want to stay because there's another trillion places they can go to find what they're looking for. And so I said, you got to mention web design. You got to mention these words that reflect what you do. And the search engines feel the same way. The search engines say, well, if you don't say what you do, are you really doing that thing? And just making that change can change your business from day to night. It's really about speaking not only to the search engines, but to your clients who want to know what exactly you do. And the great thing about SEO is you can make those tweaks to your website and you can actually measure the results instantly. So you can say, okay, well, I made all these changes to my website. What impact did it have? First, you'll notice that you can see a boost in the rankings. You can actually track your rankings. And you can track your analytics, which is usually done through Google. Google Analytics is something you can add to your website, and you can track how many visitors come into your website. How well did they convert? You can actually set up goals for your clients when they come into your website. Let's say they searched, web design, and using that same example, and then they went to your contact page and they called you. You can actually track all of those steps to see how well your changes that you've made through SEO have benefited your company. And that's the great thing about it. It's very different than doing like pamphlets or ads in the newspaper or
it's very measurable. It's absolutely measurable. That's the key to this. And you're always looking for how well does a web page convert, and also the magic thing that you're talking about is bounce rate.
Yes. So there's three main metrics that I personally recommend clients understand. And those are bounce rate, visitors and views, and duration. So if you have a website, and as I said, just like that web design company, where they have a website that doesn't speak to the audience. Well, generally what will happen is people will come in, they have about a 3-second attention span. 3 seconds, you got to remember that 3-second rule. They come in, and if they don't see what they're looking for, they bounce out, they leave. And generally, if they leave within the first couple of seconds, that will register as a bounce in your analytics. So you'll see like your site has, a typical website has a 50% bounce rate. So that means that for every 2 people that come in, only 1 actually stays, and then the other guy left. And that's actually considered good. But if your bounce rate is like 60 or 80%, that means that most of the people that are coming in are leaving. And if you can get your bounce rate lower, well, then that means that you're really holding on to those people that are coming in to your website. So as I said,
and part of that actually helps is Google actually manages this in their metrics, so they know that there's a high bounce rate, so they give you less authority and less credibility on the topic that you're trying to rank for. Yeah. So if you're not ranking properly, you'll get pushed down the ratings, and they won't serve you up in the first page. And you know how to hide a dead body.
Yeah, they use a technology called RankBrain, and what that does is it looks at these kind of metrics where it says, okay, if they're bouncing out of this site because we sent them there, and we must not have been relevant, so they'll bounce people out. They'll actually lower the rankings. If you actually have a higher bounce rate, generally you'll actually move up in the rankings, even if you're maybe not as well optimized or don't even have the authority. Authority means a little bit different than just bounce rate. It's more about links and stuff, but we'll get into that in a second. The other thing that they look at, and that really does impact your business, is how many visitors come to your website. And if you see that by optimization, you've increased the number of visitors, well, that's potential clients. And typically, a site will convert about 2 to 3% of their visitors to sales or some kind of interaction. So the more visitors you get, the more potential clients you get. So it's just, it's almost mathematical in how it works. The goal is get more visitors, get more sales. And there's really only 2 things that determine how you rank on the search engines. and that is content and authority. Now, content is really what your website says and how it says it. There's ranking factors within that, and there's a lot of ranking factors in it. There's like hundreds of ranking factors within just that content element. So there's things called like meta tags, like title meta tag, description meta tag. It also how your website content is written, like H1 tags, bold tags, font tags. Is it in a paragraph? Is it small text or is it big text? Is it white on white text? There's a whole bunch of things with just the coding of the content that impact the content element. Also, they look at how well you reinforce the keywords. They look at semantic language as well, where saying the keyword but also saying variations of the keyword can impact the ranking for a keyword. There's a whole myriad of things that are involved within the content part. And then the second part is authority. Now, authority is really what made Google Google. Before Google existed, all the search engines used content. They looked at how well does content, in terms of the words used on the site, how well does it reflect the keywords? But what was happening was people would spam that. They would just kind of put in a whole bunch of keywords and hope that they would rank at the top. And after a while, the results on the search engines back 20 years ago were very spammy. They were just very keywordy, but not very good content. So what ended up happening was Google said, hey, there must be a better way. What if we look at who is recommending these sites? And they looked at links coming from other websites to the site that is in question in terms of its rankings. And what they did is they came up with this concept of PageRank. And PageRank was really based off the founder, Larry Page. And it was this concept of pages linking to each other. And the more links and the higher quality of the links, the more that site would rank. Because it would say, it'd be a way of saying that site has a lot of authority. It's a very trusted site. You don't link to sites that are not good. You only link to sites that you can trust. And so the authority became a huge thing. So I want to actually have a volunteer from the audience, and I'm going to show you a couple of things. One, I'll show you how to look at your website in a very different way. And I will show you how to look at the content element, at least, of the SEO part. And so anyone want to volunteer their website, I will probably be a little bit harsh.
Mark is there. Mark, wpbs.org.
Okay, so what's the website?
wpbstv.org.
wpbs.org.
And now TV.
.org.
And now, Alan, you should present your screen. You just have to.
Wait, I got to make sure I have the right site. wpbs.
TV.org.
Oh, TV. Oh, okay.
.org.
.org. Okay, I knew I heard a .org. Okay.
Yeah, and now you hit the little button down below that says present, and you get to present.
Okay. For some reason, it's not.
This is slightly terrifying because who knows what's going to happen here. We didn't rehearse.
Exactly.
Okay. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to see infinity in a second here. 1 sec here. Yeah. I got to make sure I share the right screen. Okay. So 1 sec here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
And you see WPBS?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's look at this from the search engine perspective. So if you see this very top thing, WPBS serving North New York and Eastern Ontario, serving Northern New York and Eastern Ontario. You see that?
Yep.
Okay, so.
And then Mozilla Firefox, you're using Firefox.
I use Firefox. I'm primitive that way. But just so you know, you have this twice. that is kind of considered spammy, and search engines might not like that too much. You probably have in your settings, if this site is done in WordPress, I imagine it's done in WordPress based on just seeing that, you probably have your title set up incorrectly, where it's just repeating this piece on every page. Okay, and you probably rewrote it on the home page as well. So generally what search engines will see is, oh, they're spamming these words. Okay, so already they're kind of looking at you a little negatively because this is the very first thing that they see. Okay, also, you don't really say what you do. You say you serve these areas, but what do you serve them? And that's not clear. I know it's PBS, but it's not clear. Okay. So then the next thing that they see is this navigation. Okay. You see all the navigation, they would see this. And what you can do, if I want to kind of look at this slightly differently, let's see. Okay, so this is how Google actually sees your page. I just did a cache command, and this is the way Google sees your page. So they see all this white space, and then they see this is behind your logo. This is the text that's actually behind your logo. Again, it would appear as a bit spammy, just so you know. That's called an alt tag. And then here's your navigation. Now, on the good side, this is very, very clean. This is considered very clean code because it's if you see like where the navigation is like all over the place, like if it's like all over here and all over here, then there's probably some coding issues. But this is coded very, very cleanly. And this is your whole navigation as at the top. So this is the very first thing that Google sees, and it sees it very cleanly. The other good thing is because it is clean, Google probably can index your site very, very well, which means that it can actually follow these links and find all of these pages, which is good. So those are good things. Next thing that it would see is all of this content. Okay. Now the question is what it is. You got to kind of think about your site in terms of what your viewers are looking for when they're trying to find you. So obviously they're looking for PBS, local PBS, Northern New York probably, or Eastern Ontario. They're also probably looking for TV programming, or public broadcasting service, So there's probably certain keywords there's ways of doing keyword research that you can find what keywords people are looking for when they're looking for your business. Now, for the most part, I don't really see that language being used inside here. I mean, they might be looking for people like these names. Might be things that people actually do look for because they might be people that are familiar to your audience, that oh, I'm interested in Rick Steves, and his European Christmas thing, so they might search for that. And you can find out exactly how many people actually know the names, because one thing that does happen, because Google is a search engine, it actually tracks how many people search each keyword. So you can actually look at their archives of all that information and see how many people actually search Rick Steves, or how many people search Andrea Botticelli, Bocelli, I should say. And so they would search all, you can actually see how many people search it, and you can also see which keywords get related to it. And then you can write the language in your website to kind of reflect that. But one thing that I do see is I don't see much keyworded content. I actually see, like, this might be a good one. I kind of like that. And we got PBS food, that's good, but no content to reinforce that. There's nothing underneath. And then you got your about us.
So Mark just asked a question. He asked, where is the keyword rankings on a site like this?
Keyword rankings. The way it works is you would have to determine, like, what you do is you'd find, like, you'd pick a word. This is a keyword, like her name, or his name, or PBS, or things like that. And then what you do is you can use tools to find what your rankings are for those keywords. So basically, you would have to come up with a list of keywords that you want to check, and then you would use a program to actually check the rankings of those keywords. Or you can even do it manually. Just take this keyword, like go to Google and search it, okay? I use a tool called SEMrush. And what you can do is you can put the name into the search. So this will find out how many people actually search it. So for example, Rick Steves, 60,000 people search for his name per month. Rick Steves tours, 22,000 search it. Rick Steves Europe. So back to your page. So Rick Steves European, it's not Europe. It's Europe that people search. So you would change it slightly to, for example, to make this more optimized, you would say Rick Steves Europe, Christmas in Europe. Yeah, Christmas in Europe probably make more sense. But you can see, like, how, Rick Steves in Italy, Rick Steves Ireland. So he's obviously well known for his tours and specific location tours. So you could actually kind of cater the language to that, where you could say, Rick Steves is, Christmas in Europe, and he's visiting these countries, Italy, Ireland, where you kind of cater the language to target these search keywords. Do you see how it works? But you'd have to kind of go through your site and kind of find out what these targets are and really cater the language to them. Okay. But there would be it's not a simple process of just, I realized that there's this good keyword and then stuffing that keyword into the website. There's actually methods to it. Generally, what you have to do is look at your website as a lottery ticket. The one cool thing is you can win any lottery, you can win the Powerball, you can win whatever lottery you want by buying lottery tickets, right? And if you buy all the lottery tickets, well, you're guaranteed to win. Well, the search engines, it's kind of the same idea. You think of the keywords are just different combinations, sort of like lottery tickets. And each page of your website is like buying a lottery ticket, where you can win the traffic lottery, where by having the keyword Rick Steves Europe, Rick Steves Italy, Rick Steves whatever, you can win those traffic lotteries where people will find you and come into your website.
And, so and what about paid versus unpaid search on this kind of keyword?
Okay, so this kind of keyword probably has a little bit of paid. I don't know if it would. So this one has 0 paid ads. I don't see any paid. There's no paid ads for this name. Generally, what'll happen is there's multiple styles of links, not links, but keywords. Generally, what ends up happening is keywords that are considered informational, like his name would be considered like an informational keyword, where you're not going to get a sale at the end of the day. You're just going to get somebody that's interested in this person, and they are, they're just going to want to read about them. They're not going to want to buy something from them. Now, there are differences where you can actually tweak the keyword slightly, because I see that he's an author. One sec here. So if you type in sort of something like books, then all of a sudden you'll notice that it's now considered not an informational keyword. It's considered like a money keyword. A money keyword is a keyword that you can actually make money from. So you'll notice now that you'll see ads when I add the extra books term, because people know that if they're searching for that, they want to buy something. They want to buy Rick Steves' book.
So you see the word sponsored that indicates that it is paid for to be on that page.
Yes, exactly. So, and then underneath, these are the organic. Organic means non-paid listings. So generally what you want to do is not only you got to figure out what keywords to target, but you've got to figure out what is your goal with those keywords. If your goal is to potentially make money from a keyword, well, then you've got to make sure that the keyword that you're using is truly a money keyword rather than an informational keyword.
So Allan, I'm going to go way out on a limb and say, I think that Mark, one of his jobs is to help raise funds for the business, because PBS is always saying, can you come and watch this show and give us a few dollars? We appreciate it. And I think 80% of your revenue comes from Eastern Ontario.
Yeah, it's 75 to 80. Yeah, it's a lot. In terms of non-government assistance, we get a lot from Albany and Washington too, but
yeah. So going back to, let me just go back to your actual website. One sec here.
Where's the word donate on that page? Is it there?
There's support, but again, language really matters, and then donate is
There's
over
donate.
here.
Yeah, donate's there.
Yeah. So generally, actually, what you want to do is see this donate button. This is just a tip. I've worked on like hundreds of sites. What you want to do is actually make this ugly. Like what I mean by that is your colors are all blue, right? What you want to do is make this orange. And the reason you make it orange is people, their eyes will be like, what? It'll actually kind of, trigger their reaction to notice it because it's out of the color sync. And that way you're basically calling people's attention to this button, which is what you want to do, right? So if you make this orange or something that kind of stands out, then people are more likely to click it and see it, okay? But if it's sort of blue and everything else is blue, it kind of blends in, even though it is, it is a obvious button. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. So, would red be okay? And
red, something that just kind of stands
something
out.
Something is not blue because everything else is in blue.
That's my point. Yeah, something that kind of is a bit jarring, but not like doesn't, destroy.
So what keywords do you think people are using to find you, Mark?
I would think it has a lot to do with the schedule. So they go Masterpiece, Rogers, Ottawa, and that's how they find us.
So generally the way SEO works, just so you know, is what I always ask my clients is what keywords do you think people search when they're looking for you? And then we basically create a list, like let's say 20 keywords that we think of that people might search when they're looking for you. And then what we do is take that list and then basically I just run it through the keyword tool that I have and then create a longer list and say, well, maybe they don't actually, it's sort of like European versus Europe, where I find out, oh, we thought it was European, but it's actually Europe that they search. So what I find is what is the actual language that people are most commonly going to type in. And then I use that to basically, come up with language that reflects what the user is expecting. So basically by talking in the language of your user, you're going to actually convert better too, because you're actually speaking to them. You're saying, hey, it's Europe, rather European. It's speaking in the way that they're thinking. And generally that will convert better as well. So not only will you rank better and rank for keywords that people use, but you're actually speaking to your audience.
So one of the things that SEO does is you take a look at who the competitors are and then find out what they're ranking for. So do you have a competitor marked in mind?
BritBox.
So red?
Yeah, I'd say BritBox probably, or TVO.
So generally what I would do is do the same kind of experiment that I did on your site to their site and see what keywords they're targeting And you never know, like I've seen it where like one of my clients basically said, hey, these are my competitors. And then I looked at the competitors and they were just as clueless as, so everyone was clueless. So, but the great thing about that was once we figured out what the keywords are, we were just light years above the competition. So, that's the, but you still do that step to find out, oh, these are the keywords that, maybe could be good. And then you use that to basically do the keyword research, find out what actually is being searched, and cater the content of your website to reflect those keywords.
Sure.
Make sense?
So did you want to look at storms just for drill?
Okay, we've been working on Storm a little bit. So let's see.
Storm.ca.
Oops, wait, I got to spell correctly here. Okay, Storm. Okay, okay, so you'll see how it says like internet services. That's really good. Again, it's the same kind of. I was mentioning that this is something that needs to be changed. This Storm Internet Rediscover the Customer Service doesn't really represent keywords well. But there are things that are good in here. So this is good. These are all strong keywords. Residential internet, TV services, residential plans. I would make this residential internet plans. Small tweaks can always be done to make the language a little bit better. Again, more packages. Again, it could be like internet service packages, stuff like that. Like little tweaks can make a huge difference. Having the locations is huge. So this is a very good thing to see. And then these are also good things like reliable ISP, local service. Again, local internet service would probably be better. Residential internet customers, commercial. These are good things. Residential internet, commercial internet. Again, like what Google often will do is it'll look at top, middle, and bottom to basically, does the site keep on using the same language? Or does the page, I should say, use the same language? So for example, we're talking about business or internet services, business internet. And then if we keep on talking about that throughout the page, well, that page must be relevant to those keywords because it starts out talking about those keywords and then continues talking about it throughout the page. A lot of the time, what a lot of sites that you see will have, and they don't rank well because of this, is they'll start talking about something but they never continue talking about it. They talk about other things. Google wants to provide the most relevant results. So the way it does that is it finds sites that have pages that really talk about that specific keyword, that have it throughout the page. Generally, when people are searching, they want to find something that is the most relevant to the thing that they're searching. And it's much better to give somebody a page that is completely about that keyword rather than a page that is only partially about that keyword. So that's
okay. And we have Chris Rankler's has stuck his hand up.
okay. So we'll kind of get into Q&A a bit here. So again, with SEO, it's a big it's a big field.
Yeah. So we'll go into the next. Yeah, we're there talking about what the next steps are. But we have a question from Chris Ranklers. We have a comment from Nick May. Nick May is the owner of Ramay, which is he did some work at Invest Ottawa and Carleton University to go through a program for a startup, and one on Dragon's Den. But the dirty little secret is they never gave him any money, even though they pledged. And because by the time they got to it, he'd already got customers and figured out how Amazon worked. And I don't know, Nick, have you spent more than $500,000 in the last 5 years on ads?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Nick is actually an experienced retailer on the web, and I was one of his coaches to try and help him when he was in his startup mode. So
Nice.
yeah. So anyway, but he knows a lot about doing websites and getting traffic to come.
Yeah, one thing I've never really done is SEO actually, but because it was, a bit easier to just run ads and get that to work. But but they both needed. I need to do SEO for sure. It's that's a cheaper way to go. It's a bit upfront investment, and then where the other one, it's every day you get your return, and but the SEO is a better long term.
So typically with SEO, you're looking at about the cost, because there are costs associated with SEO. You're looking at about 1 to 2 cents per visitor. Whereas AdWords, you're looking at anywhere if you really run them well, you can maybe get it down to 50 cents, but typically it's around $1 per click. And on certain keywords, like I've done a lot of lawyer sites, I've seen them pay up to $50 a click, just to give you a sense of how expensive AdWords can be.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
But typically, around $1. So it's about 100 times more expensive to do AdWords than SEO, generally. And
I need to. Yeah, it's definitely a good thing to do. It's just at first it was seemed more time consuming when I can only pick so much energy to do something. So, but then it's to break out of that, paying the upfront cost versus getting the return instantly. But it's still, you're better off. You can float it. It's a good start for sure.
Yeah. And typically there's ways of, I do a lot of AdWords too. There's typically ways that you can learn from your AdWords on how to actually maximize your SEO efforts as well. They kind of play hand in hand a lot of the time, where you can sort of see benefits on either end.
So Allan, if somebody wanted to have you work on their website to make it rank better, what exactly would they have to do? They just write you an email at?
Yeah, I basically say, hey, Allan, can I get your help? And and then basically I have pretty I'm very affordable. I'm more of I do more volume than a lot of SEO companies, so I try to keep my costs very low, but try to provide really high level service for my clients.
And how long does it take your team to take apart a website and make recommendations?
So it's me that's doing all the way I run my company is that I do all the recommendations and I kind of look through the website. I have a development team that will actually implement the work that I suggest. And then I have another level that actually helps build the authority for clients. But typically you're looking at about a month turnaround to do all that, to get the website organized and optimized. And then typically what you'll notice generally is once you optimize the website, you'll get about a 20% boost in your traffic right off the bat. And that's just from Google finding the new version of your website. After that, you'll find that your traffic will, I did a lot of marketing for the radio stations like Virgin Radio. And even though they had a huge amount of traffic from being on the radio, I was able to increase their traffic by 12 times through SEO. So what it was, and that was over a period of a few months. It was very short. Typically, results are as I said, you get that initial boost, but then it's about 3 to 6 months is sort of normal for getting those harder to rank terms to rank by building authority to that website. So it's really link building after that is the point. A lot of link building and content writing that is done to kind of boost the site to that next level. A good example of that is I worked with a limo company way back when, this is a long time ago, but at first I had them ranking for the keyword limo services Toronto, okay? Which is actually a very competitive keyword. But after about 5 months, 5, 6 months, they were ranking for the word limo. So that got them a lot more traffic, and they became the limousine service for TIFF. That was their big claim to fame. So yeah, that's like the Toronto Film Festival. I'm originally from Toronto, so yeah. So the thing is, a lot of it, what you do is over time you build up to those bigger terms. You go for the low hanging fruit at first, and then you build up to the bigger terms. So then that usually.
So Mark, Nick just sent you a specific red, green, blue color codes for you to be able to get the Amazon yellow code exactly.
Oh, what's this?
Well, every color has
the card.
a code in red, green, blue.
Oh, the yellow.
Yeah, so we're
So
actually
you can
doing
do that color code. Yeah, for the donate
Yeah.
now.
all right.
Other
So if Chris Ranklers is still here, Chris, you had a question.
Well, it's very simple. Coming back to the basics. So I've created a website using WordPress or whatever, and now I've got it online. So so it's ready to go. So what is the trigger that is does Google do mining of websites that come online? Do you have to trigger something? Like, what's the next step once you bring your website online to even get Google or any other search engine to even look at you?
Notice it? Okay, so generally, Google bought the DNS information, so it actually knows all the whois information. So if you buy a website, like a domain name, I should say, Google will instantly know that it exists. Okay, it'll actually know that you exist as a domain site, as a even if you don't even have a website. Often, even before you're ready to launch your website, if you don't block the search engine, it'll keep on trying to index you and get you into the search engine. So generally, if you just make sure that your site is, the robots.txt file is done in such a way where it allows search engine to index your website, it will index you. If it isn't indexing you, you can actually you can set up Google Console, and you can actually manually force it to index you. And generally within 24 hours, it will index your website.
And the indexing goes on continuously 24/7.
Yeah, usually it's based on the authority of the website. It will determine how frequently to index your website. So if your site is like a site that's very small, not much authority to it, maybe it'll index it once a month. If it's a site where it has a lot of authority, it could index it hourly or daily. But average site gets indexed once a week.
All right. So we're in Q&A already. So
Already there.
yeah. So any more Q&A?
So did I answer your question?
Yeah. I didn't know what that bridge was between getting the website online and then how the search engines see it.
Yeah, so you said you built your site in Yoast, WordPress. Use the Yoast plugin. And then what it can do is it can configure your Google Console. And once you set up Google Console, you can do the manual submission to Google, and it'll just save a little bit of time.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
All right. And is Joshua still here?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. So my question for you, Joshua, is what are you trying to do with your startup?
Yeah. So one question I did have, because I'm doing services more to small to mid-sized companies doing process automation, and I was wondering, how do these principles change when you're looking for B2B versus the average consumer? Like, is there a change that needs to take place, or are the principles the same, or what does that look like?
It's the same thing. It's people even in B2B, like my customers it's all B2B, right? So generally, when people are looking for companies for support, they're looking on the search engines to find those companies that offer that support. So, for example, my clients would search SEO services or SEO services Ottawa, or they would look for somebody that provides that service. So it's just a matter of doing the keyword research, finding out what your customers even if it's B2B, it's still customers, what they're looking for.
And we have a question from Nick May. If you optimize for Google, will it also optimize for all other search engines?
Yes, generally they all use similar algorithms. It'll be slightly different, but not as much as you would expect. They're actually all pretty similar. Bing is the other big search engine, and it uses the same algorithms. So generally, you'll rank using the same methods.
And Eduardo wants you to add to your lexicon signal colors, bright colors that draw attention to them. Think of construction cones and high visibility vests and stop signs. Eyes that are attracted to big, bright, high contrast and movement. Use that power wisely.
Yeah, I would avoid the movement part, but I would definitely have contrasting colors on calls to action.
And yeah, is there a list of tools you'd recommend using the search engine term research?
So yeah, the biggest, probably the best tool currently is SEMrush. That's the one I recommend. There are other ones. There's a really good site called smallseotools.com, and it has a lot of SEO tools that you can really help you. It can even do the submissions, I believe. It has a lot of cool tools where it can look at broken backlinks, broken links. It can also check your rankings. So Small SEO Tools is another good site that I recommend. But SEMrush is a paid service that provides really good results. Another one is Uber Suggest, which I believe is free. He's actually used to be somebody that followed me, the guy that runs that. But Nick Patel, he used to be a disciple of mine. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any other questions? Oh, does creating blogs cause using AI cause harm?
Yes. So actually, I was going to do a presentation about that.
Well, we'll have to have you back.
Yeah, AI is actually there's ways of using it, but you have to be very, very careful. There's AI that detects AI right now. So Google actually has an AI that detects AI generated content. So if it sees you doing AI generated content, it'll actually kind of see that as spam, and it will actually hurt your rankings. And over time, it's getting better at detecting it. So generally, you're really poorly set up. And a lot of the time with the AI generated content, I would say it's kind of similar to, do you guys remember when you had Google Translate or some translation program where it would translate from English to French or some other language, and it would be like 97% correct, that 97%. And that 3% would make a huge difference, and it would just be almost like garbage, it just not quite make any sense. Well, that's the same with AI generated content. It's like 97% good, but that 3% really does make a difference, and it really can be a little bit spammy. Also, it fails Copyscape a lot of the time. Copyscape is where you can check for duplicate content or stolen content. And you can actually get fines levied against you if you use other people's content. So you can, if you use these AI generated content, you can actually set yourself up for legal ramifications where you could get sued. So be really careful, is my point.
Do you have a strategy for backlinks?
So generally what I do is I actually have multiple offices. I have an office in the Philippines that helps me build the backlinks. And it's my office. I actually flew there 3 times to set it up and train all the people there. And the way it works is, the reason I did that is if you, to do the work, it's a lot of work to build one backlink. So typically the way I build backlinks is I look for sites like citation websites. There's one link style. A citation website is like a site like Yelp, Yellow Pages, that offer like a business listing. So you can get like a business listing, you can write up about your company, and they will link to your website. And because like a Yelp or Yellow Pages or Homestars or those kind of sites have a lot of authority, like they're big sites, well, having a link from those sites actually gives you a fair amount of authority just by having that one link. However, what ends up happening is it's a little complicated. It's like I almost need a whiteboard to explain, but what happens is authority is not consistent within a website. So for example, if you're on the home page of a website, you get, like if your link is on the home page of a website, it gets a lot more authority passed to it than if it's deep inside that website. The deeper it goes, it usually goes every level deep. It drops by 1/10 of authority, if that makes sense. And so if you're really, really deep in within a site, you might get very little authority passed to your website.
We will have to have you back, Allan. There's no question.
It's
Lots of questions
complicated.
here from people. I just wanted to remind people, our next webinar is January the 11th. It'll be on resilience, disaster recovery, business continuity, and all those kinds of topics. We appreciate any suggestions people have for the kind of topics they'd like to see in our webinar series. We're doing one every second week all next year. And we're looking to grow our business, especially in the business customer area. So commercial customers, we want to know what kind of things that you want to know. And if you drop a note to marketing@storm.ca, corp.storm.ca. I guess both of them work. We will be happy to hook you up with Allan if you have some questions directly for Allan.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too. Contact Birgit, and we'll get all connected.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day. Be awesome, because there's no other way. Thank you.